Welcome back, everyone. And today we're going to do some smoked Boston butts, and we're going to make a hog glaze to go over them. What you see is two pans that I have lined with aluminum foil, and I'm going to place the Boston butts into the pan, and we're not going to put any seasoning on them. That's just me. You do it how you want to. Each of these butts weighs about 6 pounds, and we're going to smoke them for probably 8 to 10 hours. It just depends. But right now I'm going to get them in the pan and we'll take you out to the smoker. Okay, so I have the smoker set at 250. I've taken the extra racks out of the smoker. I have the water pan filled with water. We're going to close this up, and I know in about 2 hours I'll need to come back and add more water to our pan. Right, so it's been about an hour and a half to 2 hours since we put these in the smoker. We're starting to get a little bit of color to them. I went ahead and added some more water to the pan, and we'll come back out in about 2 hours and check on them again. Okay, we've been on the smoker for 4 hours now, and we're getting some really good color to the meat. Starting to get dark outside, and folks, it is cold out. We're in the Arctic blast. You can notice there's some juice down in there, and that's why I've got these in the pan, because that's going to come in to play when we wrap these when they reach 160. So I've added more water to our pan, and we'll be back out and check on them in another 2 hours. Okay, so I just pulled the pork butts out of the smoker. I like the color on them, so I'm gonna go ahead and probe and see what our temperature is at. It's well below freezing outside, so I believe I'm gonna go ahead and transfer these to the oven at 250. So we're at 156 on this one. That's close enough to 160 for me. This one's at 141 right now. A little bit lower, but that'll be fine. I still like the color of it. And I don't think they're going to take any more smoke anyway. So we're going to cover these with aluminum foil. And we're going to put them in the oven and cook them the rest of the way. So I want to take them up to at least 200, and then I'll probe them, and when they're tender to my temperature probe, they're done. Alright, so I wrapped them with the aluminum foil, making sure that I sealed it well around the rim of each of the broiler pans. And as soon as the oven reaches 250, I'm going to stick them in there. And they'll continue to produce more juices as they continue to cook, which will help tenderize them even more. And once it's finished, once we reach at least the 200 mark, I'm going to leave them covered for at least an hour, maybe more. let them cool off enough to where I can actually pull the pork. Okay, so the Boston butts ended up cooking about 8.5 hours. We cooked them or smoked them for 5.5 hours. And when I brought them in and put them in the oven, they finished out at 3 hours. So they're resting at the moment. So we're going to go ahead and start up on our hog glaze. The first thing we have to do is make the basic vinegar sauce. And what we have in my measuring cup is 2 cups of apple cider vinegar and 1 cup of ketchup. I have a half a cup of plain white sugar. In this bowl, I have 2 tablespoons of salt, 1 tablespoon of ground pepper, and 1 teaspoon of red pepper flakes. And we'll need 1 teaspoon of the hot sauce. So I have the apple cider vinegar and the ketchup in this larger measuring cup, and I'm going to use my whisk to mix those up. I'm going ahead and starting to dissolve that ketchup, because we're going to heat this on the stove, and we just need to heat it long enough to dissolve the sugar and the salt. You don't want to bring it to a boil. And I've found that it's easier with the ketchup if you put it into a larger cup and whisk it in with the apple cider and vinegar to help it break up. If you try to put it in your saucepan all at once, it's like the ketchup wants to remain kind of lumpy. So that's why we're whisking it. All right, so we're going to pour the apple cider vinegar and the ketchup into our boiler. We're going to put our half a cup of sugar in, the salt, pepper, and red pepper flakes. And give our hot sauce a shake. And we'll put 1 teaspoon of hot sauce. So I'm going to stir this up. And this will go on the stove top just long enough to dissolve the sugar and the salt. And then we'll set this aside and let it cool. And we'll be back to show you how to finish up the hog glaze. So we have the basic vinegar sauce cooling, and I've pulled the covers off of the Boston butts, and they're very tender. You can see there's a lot of juice down in the pan, and that juice is helping to keep them moist right now. So we'll go ahead and we'll start pulling the pork while the basic vinegar sauce is cooling off. Once we get this handled, we'll finish up the hog glaze that we'll pour over the pulled pork. Okay, so we're almost there. We're almost done. I have the butts pulled and I have them in separate containers. And what you see in my blender is 2 cups of our basic vinegar sauce, And I've already added 2 cups of light Karo syrup or light corn syrup to that. We're going to add 2 jars, 18 ounces each, of apple jelly. Use whatever brand you prefer. Now I'm making up a full batch of this. If you're only doing one of the Boston butts, you could half these ingredients and you would have enough of the hog glaze for 2 butts. So to this, I'm going to add 2 tablespoons of honey. This just gives it just a little bit of an extra flavor. And the sauce is going to be sweet, but it's got a little bit of a tang to it because of the apple cider vinegar. And I promise you, if you try this, this is what puts that Boston butt over the top. The secret is definitely in the sauce. All right, so I'm going to take this over to my blender base, and I'm going to make sure that I blend it up until I can hardly see any of the red pepper flakes. Okay, so I have that well blended, and something I should mention is my blender will hold 72 ounces. The maximum liquid fill line is 64 ounces. So you check your blender before you start to add your ingredients into it, because you may have to mix it up in 2 batches. So we've got this blended well, and I've got my pork butt here, and we're going to pour the liquid hog glaze over the butt and then stir it in. So this is one of the butts that I pulled. So I started out with 64 ounces, and I've got just over 32 ounces still in my blender. And we're even now, because I'm going to add the rest of this to that second butt. So let's just give this a stir. Get all of that mixed in. Make sure it's coating all of the butt. I like to tear mine into really small pieces because I don't We don't like the long, thin strings of meat. We prefer smaller bite sizes. So that's got this one well coated. Just get it covered back up. And this one is going to my sister-in-law today. It's Christmas Day, and she had asked me to fix her one of these. So I'm about to give her a little text and let her know hers is ready. All right, well, that was the second butt. We'll just give this a stir. Make sure we get all of that butt covered with the sauce. So I promise you, if you give this a try, you're really gonna like it. It's the sauce that makes the difference. If you're concerned that I didn't season the butt before I smoked it, well, the reason I didn't is because I didn't want all of those flavors from, say, a barbecue seasoning to compete with this hog glaze. And the hog glaze is absolutely perfect just as it is. So that's got the second butt covered well. And I hope you'll give this a try. You know, they say you either like it or you don't, but you'll never know unless you try it. Merry Christmas, everyone. Have a blessed day.